Exposed, the sinister rules of a haunted fire lookout in British Columbia's foreboding wilderness. Sarah Parker was on the edge of something terrifying. The forest whispered secrets, swirling around her as she climbed the narrow path to her lookout tower. Sinister trees twisted senselessly, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, reminding her of the tales that churned fear into the hearts of Maple Creek's residents. They spoke in hushed tones about the haunted woods, how they devoured dreams and hope, leaving only despair. Little did they know, she was about to step into their shadowed realm. As she approached her new home, a chilling gust swept through the trees, sending icy shivers down her spine. The sky dimmed, a foreboding blanket of gray that seemed to press down on the horizon. The old, wooden tower loomed above her, an altar of isolation. The decrepit ladder creaked under her weight as she ascended, muscles tight with anxiety. Here, in this watchful tower, solace awaited, or so she hoped. On her first night, the silence broke. Low murmurs swirled through the air, too soft to decipher but heavy with meaning. Shadows danced just out of sight, skimming the edges of her vision. Sarah's heart raced as she clutched the logbook at her side, a colorful collection of entries from previous lookouts. Each scrawl bore witness to lonely nights, but there were frantic messages mixed in, words scrawled like a desperate plea. Doomed forever bound. Her breathing quickened, the oppressive atmosphere clung to her chest. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed like a slow burn, filled with awe and an encroaching dread. At times, the beauty of the wilderness captivated her, yet shadows flickered like whispers against her mind. Anxiety gathered in her gut as she thought of her children, home alone. An unsettling thought gnawed at her. Was her neighbor, Ted, really someone she could trust? He was charming, always quick with a smile, but those smiles concealed more than warmth. They were masks that hid something dark. The townsfolk loved Ted, their loyalty thick like a fog over the darkened forest. Each time Sarah approached them with her concerns, their eyes glazed over, wavering between fear and allegiance. Their dismissive nods made her feel like a voice in a vacuum. The forest closed in around her, trees murmuring an unending cacophony, pushing against her sanity. One night, she looked out into the velvety dark and sensed it watching her back. Then the whispers crescendoed into a terrifying roar, pulling at her soul as if artistically crafted nightmares were materializing from the depths around her. You are bound to this forest now. The pact has been made. The final logbook entry screamed at her insides, its ink smeared as if someone had written it in a frenzy. No. Panic gripped her heart. Time slipped, and she realized she couldn't just leave with her children in danger. The weight of the forest pressed down, forcing her to confront the sinister shadows lurking behind known smiles. As desperation mounted, she understood the twisted connection between her family and this place of despair. To save them, she must face the deeper darkness that held them captive. The night deepened, each forest rustle echoing the chilling question, how far would she go to save her children from the lurking terror? A chill gripped Sarah as darkness enveloped the forest, thick and suffocating. The winds howled through the trees, creating a discordant melody that seeped into her bones. She could feel the ancient weight of the woods pressing closer, every crack of a twig sending her heart racing. Shadows pulsed with life, both frightening and familiar. They beckoned, tugging at her sanity. Fear gnawed at her, a relentless whisper that suggested unthinkable possibilities. What if Ted had been watching her? What if he was part of the forest's dark scheme? She bit her lip, tasting the metal tang of panic. Clutching the logbook tightly, she took one last look at the frantic scrawl before her resolve crystallized. She had to dig deeper. Dawn found her unrelenting, a scrim of gray light slicing through the treetops. She would search for answers not just for her children, but for herself. She ventured out into the woods, every leaf crunch echoing like a siren. The forest seemed to close in around her each step she took. Sunlight flickered, creating grotesque shapes that danced upon the ground, teasing her with distorted visions of reality. "Keep moving, Sarah," she whispered. "Find it." Soon, she stumbled upon a clearing, hidden and isolated. To her horror, the ground was littered with remnants. Shreds of fabric, broken toys, and torn photographs tainted with mud, the belongings of others who vanished into the haunted expanse. Each memento felt like a taunt, a cold reminder of the pact she'd unknowingly inherited. "Mommy," the voice pierced the air faintly, echoing her own thoughts. The sound was unmistakable, her children's call hung like mist in the cool morning air. They were out there somewhere, swirling in the depths of this agonizing forest. A surge of adrenaline propelled her forward. She needed to reach them, to break whatever binding might linger over their lives. The forest grew sharper, branches reached out to snare her, pulling at her clothes like desperate hands. The air became thick, swirling with the scent of earth and decay. With each step, the shadows juked and jived around her, teasing her thoughts as new whispers emerged. "Leave this place, it's not yours." A sharp scream rang through the trees, her own voice. Panic struck as she turned, fleeing deeper into the heart of the wilderness. Her breath turned ragged as the world spun around her, fear chased her like a predator, sending icy tendrils down her spine. She rounded a pine tree, seeking refuge from the voices, but they amplified, the words clarifying into a chilling warning. "Turn back. You've seen too much." Her pulse quickened, and saliva turned bitter in her throat. She recognized the faces now, photographs stuck to the bark of trees, all with eyes that seemed to plead. They wanted her to know. To understand what it meant to be trapped here, to become part of the sinister history of these woods. Just as despair threatened to engulf her completely, she caught sight of a figure lurking among the trees. Ted. His smile had vanished, replaced by an otherworldly chill. "Sarah, why did you stray?" he asked, voice smooth as glass but edged with something dark. "You can't fight what you don't understand." Her instincts flared. She stammered out a question. "What do you want with my children?" He stepped closer, and the forest seemed to lean in with him, shuddering with an unsettling anticipation. "They're not what you think, not anymore." As the realization began to dawn, the world around her shifted, darkness swirling and consuming the last vestiges of light. Shadows elongated and reached toward her, beckoning her into their cold embrace. "What do you mean?" "Look closely before it's too late," he whispered, his voice now barely audible, lost beneath the mounting chaos as the trees clamored, drowning out her understanding. The grip of the unknown closed around her throat, and she felt the pull of the forest thrusting her deeper. As light turned to darkness, she fought against the rush, knowing the answer lay somewhere in the silence now creeping in, but what she didn't know was that the time for questions had slipped away. The forest had chosen its next sacrifice, and she was caught in its web. What deep dark secret awaited her just beyond the veil? The shadows wrapped tight around Sarah, pulling her deeper into the murky abyss of the forest. She could hear the rustling leaves whispering secrets, their voices merging into an incoherent murmur. It was as if the woods themselves were alive, watching her confusion with cold, indifferent eyes. The chill in the air thickened, stinging her skin as she stumbled back, her heart racing with an animalistic terror. Ted's silhouette loomed larger, a dark figure against the backdrop of twisted branches. "You're too late, Sarah," he said, his voice an unnatural echo. "You shouldn't have come here." The finality in his tone sent a wave of dread crashing over her. There was no escaping, the forest would not let her go. "Where are they?" she gasped, struggling to keep her voice steady. "They're in the trees, Sarah." His stare held something unrecognizable, a mixture of pity and malice. "Just like the others, just like you will be." Fear twisted in her gut as the images of the faces she'd seen on the tree trunks flickered in her mind. These weren't just memories, they were warnings, trapped spirits caught between the realms. In that moment, the ground beneath her trembled, and the forest came alive with a cacophony of sound. The animals' cries intertwining with the wind, rising into a frantic chorus. Branches creaked and groaned, and shadows expanded, taking on grotesque forms that clawed at her reality. "Run!" A voice screeched, the sound clearer than ever, and suddenly, Sarah surged forward, driven by an instinctual need to escape. Her feet pounded against the damp earth, but it felt like the ground itself was pushing back. Each step was a struggle against an unseen force that sought to reclaim her. Around her, the trees twisted and turned, the path becoming a labyrinth of confusion. She took another sharp turn, desperate for an exit, when she caught a glimpse of her children in the distance, their silhouettes bathed in a ghastly glow. "Mommy!" they cried, reaching out to her with innocent faces marked by a darkness that clawed at her heart. "No! No!" she screamed, her heart lodging in her throat. They were lost. This forest was grasping them, pulling them somewhere she might never find them. "Leave them!" Ted's voice rang out again, now deeper, filled with a new fervor. "They are not yours to save." Clarity mingled with her dread. She understood then, it wasn't just the forest. The choices that had brought her here, her guilt, her failures, were the roots binding her to this cursed place. She panted, choking back tears. "I will not abandon them." The ground quaked again, and from the depths of the earth, voices rang out. Whispers of other mothers, other lost souls. "We are here. We are waiting." Their words wrapped around her like a noose. A storm of panic rolled through her, shutting down her mind. They were counting on her, but Ted stood there, a shadow of doubt, keeping her tied to despair. "You can't save them, Sarah. You're one with the forest now." She needed to believe. Shoving past fear, she formed a plan. She couldn't just run blindly. Instead, she turned, confronting him. "What if I could break the curse? What if I could set them free?" A long silence loomed between them, filled with the pulsing energy of the forest. Ted's face shifted, a flicker of uncertainty flashing in his eyes. "You think you can defy the woods? The price is higher than you imagine." The shadows shivered anxiously, revealing hints of danger lurking beneath their surface. The air vibrated with anticipation, and Sarah knew she had tapped into something greater, a line of tension that could either lead to her salvation or her ultimate doom. As she met Ted's gaze, something clicked inside her, a mixture of anger and fierce determination. The forest would not win. She would fight. But before she could speak, the ground beneath her quaked violently, splitting open. Without warning, she was plunging down, the dark maw of the forest devouring her whole. A scream erupted from her lips, a cry of defiance against the consuming void. In that moment, she felt the weight of the choices that had brought her here, and the touch of her children, drifting like wisps in the distance. The fall was endless, echoed by the whispers of all those who had vanished before her, blending with her thoughts as she plummeted deeper into the unimaginable darkness. What lay beneath could hold the key to escape, or it could be the ultimate trap. Could she find the truth before she was lost forever? A hard impact jolted Sarah from her freefall, her body colliding with cold, damp earth. She lay still for a moment, gasping, the noise of the forest muffled above her. The darkness wrapped around her like a thick blanket, sinister and suffocating. She could sense something shifting nearby, a presence lurking just out of sight. "Mommy, please!" The faint, breathy call of her children echoed in the void, haunting her ears. Desperation surged through her. She scrambled to her feet, but the ground beneath her felt unstable, shifting like quicksand. Panic clawed at her throat as she struggled to regain her balance. "Kids! Where are you?" she shouted into the gloom. No response came but the silence, heavy and oppressive. She pressed on, pushing through the darkness, her heart hammering in her chest. Each step fell silent against the saturated ground, absorbing her rhythm, as if it craved her despair. The air thickened with humidity, making it hard to breathe. The dark space around her felt tighter, like a noose slowly squeezing her. With every step forward, the whispers returned, echoing eerily in the shadows. Join us, they curled around her mind, wrapping tightly until she felt dizzy. Get away from me, she snapped, forcing herself to move faster. The urgency of her children's cries fueled her resolve. She couldn't falter now. The ground remained uneven, but she now sensed a faint glow ahead, seeping through the trees like spilled ink. A sliver of hope ignited inside her. Sarah pushed toward the light, navigating through roots and fallen branches, moaning in protest against her every movement. As she neared the illumination, she stumbled across a clearing, and her breath hitched at the sight. A massive tree stood in the center, unlike anything she had ever seen. Its trunk twisted grotesquely, gnarled and ancient, pulsing with a faint, sickly glow. Faces were embedded in its bark, contorted in eternal agony. Each visage resembled someone she once knew, long-lost friends, and family. Their eyes were wide with fear, mouths agape in silent screams, each a warning, a reminder of the price of this cursed forest. Sarah, the low, melodic voice shattered her thoughts, drawing her gaze to the base of the tree. There, the shadows shifted into a dark figure, the features a macabre mockery of Ted. You're not alone, are you? You have everything you need right here, he taunted, gesturing toward the tree. No. They're not mine, she screamed, fury burning through her soul. Are you sure? His grin expanded, jagged and sinister. You wanted to know where they are. Those faces are waiting to embrace you. Join them. Panic clawed at her throat as the ground around the tree undulated, the roots twitching restlessly. It was a call to surrender, a seductive offer to merge with the forest's evil. She had to resist. Think, Sarah. In that chaotic moment, a plan began to form in the recesses of her mind. If she could somehow harness the energy in the tree, turn it against Ted, against the curse, maybe, just maybe, she could break free. Breathing deeply, she focused on the forest's whispers, connecting their sorrow to her own. I know your pain, she murmured, and I will not let it consume me. The air crackled with tension, and as the shadows writhed, a voice cried out, loud and clear this time. Fight, Sarah. We're with you. The tree trembled, its branches jerking as if startled. Ted's expression faltered, disbelief crossing his face. You think you're strong enough to defy this power? She could feel the energy flooding through her veins, strength, courage, fury, all surging toward the battle at hand. Watch me. But a flash of darkness surged from the depths of the tree. Something ancient and terrifying awakened, ready to retaliate against defiance. The shadows roared, consuming the light. Sarah's heartbeat echoed in her ears as she braced for what awaited her. Could the very source of terror become her weapon? As the darkness closed in, Sarah prepared to unleash her fight against the forest's grip. Would the price of her liberation mean facing a darkness she couldn't imagine? The darkness collapsed upon Sarah like an avalanche, heavy, thick, suffocating. Just as she gathered her strength to push back, the shadows lunged forward, tendrils spiraling from the roots of the tree, hungry for her. The air roared, filled with a cacophony of whispers growing louder, screaming her name. Sarah! Join us! She winced, the sound prickling her skin. The ground throbbed underfoot, the pulse of the tree synchronizing with her racing heart. Clenching her fists, Sarah fought against the mounting terror, channeling her fear into something more powerful, a raw, burning resolve. Leave me alone! She yelled, feeling the words shatter into the chilling night. She summoned her memories of laughter, her children's faces flashing like lifebuoys in stormy seas. For them, she would confront the darkness. Tendrils snaked closer, brushing against her skin, slick and cold. She recoiled, horrified by the touch, but the energy surged within her, an electric pulse roiling through her veins, urging her to stand her ground. With a swift breath, she reached deep inside, tapping into every ounce of courage she possessed. I will not be afraid. As if provoked, the ground erupted in chaos. Roots burst through the earth, vying for her, twisting like serpents. A terrible roar echoed through the clearing as if the forest itself was enraged by her defiance. "Ted!" she screamed, casting a desperate glance toward the shadow. "This place is a prison, and its power lies only in your lies." Silence fell suddenly, jarring, uncanny. Ted's face warped, twisting into a mask of fury, the shadows swirling violently around him. "You think you can escape?" he hissed, his features darkening, eyes like feral coals. "You're bound to this forest, as are they." The tree shuddered in reply, its grotesque characters shifting as if compelled by Ted's words. But within the darkness, a flicker of something bright caught Sarah's eye. A soft glow pulsed from a crushed wildflower lying nearby, barely sprouting in the poisoned soil. Hope gripping that kernel of light in her mind, she screamed, "I'm stronger than your despair." The composure in her voice startled even her. A tingling warmth spread from her heart outward, seeping into her limbs. In that moment, the shadows faltered, a howl of anger sliced through the air, but she pressed on. She grasped the wildflower, its life force intertwining with her own, a connection formed from purity and defiance. Together, they were stronger. Suddenly, the dark energy around her recoiled, forming a swirling mass. "Stop this. You can't fight me. I control everything here." Ted screamed, his voice tinged with gnarled fury. "Yes, but I control me," she shouted back, as the luminescent energy of the flower burst forth, illuminating the clearing. The shadows hissed, retreating in dread. The faces in the tree screamed, some in anger, others strangely hopeful, but she didn't have time to revel. "Run!" she urged the faces, feeling their agony meld with her own grief. They needed her, she was ready to fight, but were they? As the light expanded, Sarah felt the darkness pulsing, struggling against the surge of brightness. Shadows stretched and twisted, a malevolent storm brewing. The once eerie whispers morphed into wild howls, filling her ears with a frenzy. The roiling chaos erupted and she staggered back, losing her grip on both the wildflower and the energy that connected them. A sharp pain lanced her side, roots snagged her ankles, pulling her towards the tree. Fighting against the grip was futile, it was like quicksand. "Help me!" Sarah cried, her voice raw with desperation. The luminous light flickered, threatening to snuff out. She felt the weight of anger creeping back, the shadows tightening as they surged for her. "No! Not like this!" From beyond the mass of despair, she heard a familiar voice, that of her children, soft yet insistent. "Don't give up, Mommy. We believe in you." Will faith in her children be enough to conquer the looming darkness, or would she lose them to the sinister grasp of the forest? The ground shook violently, rattling Sarah's bones. The roots tightened their grip like a vice, pulling her deeper into the forest's hellish embrace. Panic clawed at her throat. "No! Please!" Each plea slipped through her lips, swallowed by the howling winds. Shadows swirled above her, a frenzied dance of despair and rage. The flower's light pulsed weakly, a heartbeat fighting against inevitable subjugation. Yet, the echo of her children's voices rang true in her ears, drowning out the chaos. "We believe in you." The moment of clarity ignited her spirit. This fight wasn't just against Ted or the twisted forest. It was for her children, for countless lost souls entwined in thorny vines of fear. "I won't let you take me," she roared, unleashing her defiance into the storm of shadows. As if responding, the wildflower responded to her will, bursting into a radiant glow. The roots recoiled, hissing in frustration, releasing their iron grip for just a heartbeat. She realized then, it wasn't about overpowering the darkness, it was about enduring it, lighting a fire against the cold. With newfound determination, she focused on that glimmer of light. Each flicker was an affirmation she was not alone. "You don't scare me," she shouted, her voice piercing through the howling winds. The shadows retaliated, surging forward, but Sarah pushed back with everything she had. Light erupted from the flower, blinding in its purity, erupting into the air like fireworks against a gloomy sky. The forest shuddered, and within the chaos, something shifted. Faces emerged from the dark flickering forms trapped, crying, lost. Their eyes pleaded with her for release. "Hold on!" she shouted to them, her heart racing. Powered by desperation, buoyed by love, she drove the light out further, piercing beyond the immediate nightmare. The wails intensified as the figures surged towards her, drawn by the warmth of that glow, but as they moved, shadows reformed with malicious intent, grasping at her ankles like spectral hands. "You can't escape!" Ted shrieked, laughter echoing from the depths. Sarah frantically focused back on the flower, willing it to grow, to push against their fear. It glimmered and brightened, but her strength waned. The grip of the darkness pulled her further down. "Help me!" She screamed again, her voice cracking, desperation bubbling inside her. Suddenly, in the midst of the fray, the ground beneath her shook violently. A flash of brilliance, a surge of visceral warmth, enveloped her, a connection forged by love and willpower. The roots flinched, the faces in the tree paused. In that electric moment, she felt them, the trapped souls stirring, gathering energy from her resolve. "Together," she murmured, feeling the swell of hope. The light burst forth, cascading in tendrils around her limbs, wrapping her like a protective shroud. A cosmic web of connection stitched between those lost in her, defining their purpose, their release. The howls turned into a deafening roar, but she pressed on. "Follow me," she urged. Every ounce of her strength was directed into that singular light, aiming for freedom, for salvation. The forest writhed beneath their resolve, shadows shrinking like retreating predators. Yet somewhere, deep within the darkness, Ted's fury simmered. "This isn't over, Sarah!" he screamed, his voice daunting, filled with malice and unyielding rage. "The forest has its grip on you." Sarah could feel the dread ballooning in the air, the stench of anguish and isolation. She pressed forward, not knowing if she could hold on for much longer. Then, just as panic threatened to shatter her will again, she saw something move through the shadows, a figure stepping forward, clear as sunlight amidst the storm. Her heart raced. "Who? It couldn't be, can it?" The shadows rippled, pulling back slightly as if unsure to let the figure through. She blinked, squinting against the brilliance. Was it a friend, or another trap set by the insidious forest? "Help us!" she cried, the plea echoing through the void, a beacon of hope against darkness. But was it too late? Would they save her, or were they just another illusion born from fear? The truth lurked just beyond their reach, and terror seeped back into her heart. As the figure drew nearer, uncertainties swirled, tightening around her like a noose. What sinister twist awaited her? Would the forest relent or tighten its hold? Only time would tell. The figure edged closer, its outline nearly swallowed by shadows that clawed at the edges of light. Sarah's breath hitched. Could it truly be someone reaching out to her, or was it another cruel mockery conjured by the forest's twisted mind? Her heart pounded, a drum signaling both fear and hope. The buzzing energy that had enveloped her flickered, encouraging her to lurch forward. "Who are you?" she shouted, her voice a desperate plea, but the figure only paused, shimmering as if caught in an eternal waltz with the darkness. The closer it came, the more familiar its shape became. Long hair caught in the wind, a slight frame threaded with vulnerability. "Mom?" A voice shattered the cacophony like glass, and the weight of her world shifted. "No. It can't be," she gasped. Tears brimmed in her eyes as the vision solidified into form, a woman, pale and flickering, wreathed in sorrow. Sarah knew that face. It was Samantha, her own mother. Lost to the dark many years ago. "Help me." "Sarah," her mother whispered, the pleading echoing through the abyss. But behind that cry, Sarah could sense the shadows lunging forward, their growl deepening in hunger. Sarah's resolve twisted like a knife in her gut. What was she to do? The dire connection pulled her toward Samantha. "I can save you," she shouted, stretching her arms wide, desperate to bridge the gap. But even as she did, shadows erupted like a tidal wave, swirling violently around her, their fingers stretching greedily toward the light. "You can't bring her back." Ted's voice sliced through the air, dripping with disdain. "She belongs to us." The panic surged through Sarah like icy fingers, gripping her spine. "No. I want to let you take her," she screamed into the chaos. "Sarah, you must let go." Samantha's voice was strained, surging with sorrow. "You can't hold both of us." The ground thrummed with a rising fury. The spectral roots wrestled around her legs again, pulling and tugging with ghastly strength, threatening to snatch her away with every word. Sweat poured down her forehead, and she felt her body teeter toward the edge of complete surrender. But the flicker of light still burned, a rebellion against despair. Samantha's image flickered, shadows reaching to swallow her. "It's a trap. Let me go." "No. I want to lose you again," Sarah cried, her fists clenching in frustration. She was being pulled apart, one side by love and the other by fear. The light around her flickered dangerously, dimming as she wrestled with herself. The ground trembled, buckling around her. The darkness laughed a sick, guttural sound that reverberated through the trees. "She is mine. You will never escape." Sarah felt frantic whispers swirl around her, smells of rot and decay suffocating her thoughts. Her heart raced, now pounding a frantic rhythm beneath her ribs. Please know the tether to her mother felt like a thin strand. One wrong move would shatter both their chances of release. Then she remembered the gaze of her children, their belief in her ignited a fierce blaze. "You will not take me," she screamed, channeling every ounce of love into that radiant light. The shadows recoiled slightly. "Together," she bellowed, inviting the unseen souls intertwined within the darkness to join her. "Join me. We can fight this." "Sarah." Samantha's presence surged back, brighter and stronger than before. "You have to trust your heart. Only by releasing the past can we free ourselves." The roots recoiled, hissing in rage, allowing Sarah's light to claw its way through the oppressive night. But even with all her strength, she felt the pull of gravity growing heavier, plunging her deeper into an abyss that threatened to devour them whole. "Stop." A voice shattered her focus, primal and commanding. It tore through the chaos. Sarah whirled, eyes narrowing, heart pounding. Another figure emerged from the shadows, more solid this time, a tall man, regal in his stance, yet swaddled in darkness. "Who are you?" she shouted, demanding clarity in the madness. He didn't answer, merely raised his hands, palms open as if inviting something. "You've only seen half the truth." Every instinct screamed in her mind, urging her to run. What lay ahead? In this battle of shadows and light, could she dare to believe him? The forest's fury crescendoed, limbs twisted, roots lunged. As fear and hope intertwined, Sarah felt life exploding within her. The looming moment threatened to break them all apart, but she had to decide. Who to trust? What was the real cost of salvation? Then, everything erupted into chaos again. What awaited Sarah in the eye of this storm? Would she embrace the darkness or find the light? The decision lingered in the cutthroat air, and time stood still, heart racing. Would she make her choice before the forest crushed her under its weight? The man stepped closer, the shadows swirling around him like a living cloak. His eyes, piercing and void of warmth, locked onto Sarah's, deep and knowing. Time stretched, the forest pulsed, echoing with an unnatural heartbeat. "Do you want to save her?" he asked, his voice like gravel, scraping against her soul. "Or do you want the truth?" "Both," Sarah shot back, desperation fueling her as she kept her gaze fixed on the flickering form of her mother. "Don't toy with me. The man's lips twisted into a knowing smirk that sent a chill through her. Truth costs more than you realize. His hands twitched, beckoning the shadows closer as if they were his loyal army. Enough! Sarah yelled, but the wind swallowed her words, leaving her voice echoing into the darkness. She felt the roots tighten, squeezing her legs like vices, reminding her of the stakes at play. Let go of the past, Sarah. Samantha's voice trembled through the chaos, ghostly yet heated. It's the only way. No! She cried, hands still reaching for the light that flickered around Samantha, feeling it dim each second. I can't lose you like that again. I won T. But her mother's face shifted, twisting with anguish and resignation. Sarah, my girl, it's too late for me. You need to find your own way. A bone-deep sorrow gnawed at Sarah's chest, but the man laughed, a hollow and haunting sound. There is no way in this hell. Only choices. With a sudden confidence, he thrust forward his palm. The shadows surged, spiraling like angry waves crashing against a shore. Time slowed, and for some reason she felt the pull of his darkness luring her in, commanding and seductive. No! A bolt of clarity shot through her. She turned toward Samantha's flickering figure, her heart roaring against the tide. I believe in you. I believe in us. For countless moments, the roots tightened their grip, pulling her down. She sensed the shadows shifting, growing agitated, whispering secrets of despair to her ears. Their words felt thick and heavy, like the suffocating air in a sealed room. You can join us, Sarah. Together, you can have it all. Lies. She spat back, shoving the darkness away like a physical force. Sarah, her mother's voice rasped again, an echo layered with pain. They're right. You could understand everything. You could still save us. No! She shrieked. The darkness writhed with glee, sensing her turmoil, thrilled by the conflict twisting within her. The man stepped closer, a predator waiting for the right moment. In this forest, there are rules, he said softly, a calculating edge in his tone. Bound by blood. Passion. Fear. You can break them all, but at a cost. Stay away from her. Sarah shouted, fury igniting within her. The decision loomed before her like a cliff. We would stand against them, or we'd drown. The shadows howled as they lunged, desperate to consume her. She closed her eyes but felt the weight of them pressing into her, suffocating her courage. Yet in that moment of darkness, a spark emerged. A flicker of her children's faces, glowing in her mind, each one a beacon of love, courage, and hope. Together. She roared, slamming her palms against the encroaching darkness. She was everything, the light and the darkness, the bittersweet tether of love, pulling her through. But as she fought against the tide, reality warped around her, and Sarah gasped. She found herself not in the forest but in a small, familiar room filled with photographs, her mother smiling, children laughing. Yet, shadows beckoned outside the window, drifting through the trees like smoke. What is this? She breathed. The pulse of darkness stirred in her gut, twisting her heart. It's your past, the man whispered, lurking just outside the light. And your future. A deep tremor racked her body, confidence fraying. Would she succumb to the darkness calls or break its hold? The photographs flickered, distorting into haunting faces she barely recognized, the walls echoed with the sounds of laughter turning grotesque. She felt confusion clawing at her, clawing for an answer, for a choice, for salvation. What truth lay hidden beyond the door of her past? As shadows lunged from every direction, wanting their piece of her soul, Sarah's fight wasn't over. The choices lingered like smoke, clouding her vision, an inevitable storm threatening to consume everything. Was the truth truly more terrible than the darkness? And as she faced the abyss once more, would the light be enough to lead her to salvation, or would it only deepen her fall? The shadows danced just beyond the window, their movements sending chills rippling down Sarah's spine. It felt like a heartbeat, quickening, throbbing with an anticipation that clawed at her sanity. She pressed her palms against the cool glass, yearning to escape the unseen hands reaching toward her from the dark. "Stop this!" She shouted into the emptiness of the room, but her voice evaporated like smoke in the air. No one could hear her, not her children, not her mother, and especially not the man lurking in the shadows. "What is this place?" she demanded, her breaths shallow and quick. She wished she could tear her eyes away from the photographs, but they had become monstrous, faces twisted in agony, eyes wide with fear. They didn't belong to her family anymore, they were lost souls, trapped in their own dark narratives. "Your memories are fragile," the man said, his voice a chilling whisper that slithered into her mind. "Every decision you make will shape the reality that binds you to them. Every choice, leave them out of this." She screamed, fists clenching, the specter of rage surging within her. She wanted to shatter the glass, create a fissure they could escape through. Instead, she felt the edges of her vision blur, the room swimming as the photos morphed again. They hung in shadows and flickers before her like a faulty projector running out of film. "Do you want to save them or expose the truth?" he taunted, stepping closer, his presence suffocating. Each word twisted in her mind like a knife, pressing deeper, urging her to choose. A choice meant power, meant freedom. The darkness beyond the window beckoned her with a soft caress, promising understanding, a way to navigate the horrors lying in wait. Yet with each step toward the window, she felt her mother's whispered warnings echoing in her ears. "Find your own way," she had said. "Let them go." Sarah cried, forcing herself to turn her back on the photographs. But they continued, each face grinning cruelly, morphing from love to embarrassment, from joy to rage. "You have the power to set them free," the man murmured from just behind her, breath ghosting over her neck. "You must decide if truth is worth the cost." With raw desperation filling her chest, she swiveled around, meeting his cold gaze once more. Shadows rippling behind him writhed with energy, clawing for a piece of her resolve. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, now realizing it wasn't just revenge but something infinitely worse. The man leered, tilting his head as if she were a quaint puzzle waiting to be solved. "I want to see if you can pull the truth from the heart of your darkness. You can live, or you can join them. What will it be, Sarah?" Time stood still as she weighed her options. Each heartbeat drummed in her ears. With trembling hands, she reached for the doorknob, contending with dread and desire. The shadows twisted, tearing at her clothing, filling her lungs with the scent of damp earth and decay. "Choose," he insisted again, voice husky with hunger. "What if the truth kills me?" she muttered, fear clawing at her throat. "It won't be death, but a rebirth," he promised, the shadows swirling faster, wrapping her in a damp, sticky embrace. "You'll see. Everything you fear, all the pain, it's waiting to be unraveled." The whispers of her memories transformed into screams. The laughter of her children echoed like sinister jests from the spectral realm. She couldn't bear it. In that violent clash of emotions, she surged forward, thrusting open the door, darkness swirling inwards, suffocating the light. A howling wind met her as she stepped beyond. The forest sprawled before her, twisted trees reaching for a sky choked with ominous clouds. A path lay ahead, shrouded in shadow, each step a battle against the gnawing despair threatening to drag her under. But one question echoed through the abyss: what awaited her beyond the thicket? Was it salvation or the very heart of her greatest fears? The shadows twisted and laughed, as if they knew her answer, and it sent a shiver down her spine. Would she emerge intact, or would she find herself lost in the darkness, the ultimate sacrifice? It was time to discover just how far she was willing to go. The forest screamed its anger, twisting deeper into the confines of Sarah's mind as she hurtled down the pathway. Shadows danced, flickering against a backdrop of despair and loathing, taunting her with memories of who she had been, and who she could lose. Every step echoed like a drumbeat, heavy with the weight of her resolve. "Mommy!" The phantom voice of her children echoed through the rustling leaves. The warmth of their presence surged within her, creating a beam of clarity amidst the chaos. She had come too far to turn back now. With each stride, the monstrous tree loomed larger, its gnarled roots writhing like serpents eager to reclaim their prey. Sarah felt the pulse of light and darkness collide within her. She was a battering ram against the wall built by fear. "Stop!" Ted's voice twisted through the branches, edged with a tone that both commanded and threatened. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand more than you'll ever know." A fierce shout erupted from within her, a proclamation that ignited the air around her. "You will not take my children. You will not take me." The echo of her determination sent a tremor through the forest, stirring the shadows to shift and swirl, afraid of her defiance. The faces tangled in the tree's bark screamed silently, emotion twisting through their frozen expressions: fear, regret, hope, each one a haunting reminder of the power she needed to break. "Fighting back will only seal your fate deeper." Ted's laughter echoed, mocking and desperate. "You belong to this forest. Just accept it." "Never." Sarah took a deep breath, letting the memories of happiness, of laughter, of life wash over her. She focused on the flicker of light surrounding her. Her children's love sparked a fire within her heart, igniting courage against the creeping dread. Together she whispered, gathering strength. The pulse of energy flickered around her, a burgeoning wave of brightness that pressed against the shadows clawing toward her, hungry for the warmth that might snap the binds holding them. Bounding forward, the ethereal glow grew fiercer, reaching toward the tortured souls embedded in the bark of the tree. "You are not alone," she cried to the lingering spirits, drawing upon their pain and sorrow. "Together, we can break free." In that moment, the forest shuddered, branches shaking violently as if answering her call. The shadows recoiled, the oppressive presence that had weighed down on her beginning to dissolve amid the luminescent energy radiating from her heart. "Bind her!" Ted roared, fury now thick in his words as he conjured every shadow to wrap around her. "No!" Sarah stomped her foot down in defiance, her voice ringing with confidence. "You don't control my life anymore." The shadows lunged, but they slowed, hesitating under the burst of light that radiated from her core, fueled by maternal love that refused to be extinguished. Then came a wave of clarity, born from the depths of desperation. The truths she had hidden from herself drew forth all at once. "You want power? You think me bound? I am the architect of my being." With a loud scream, she hurled the energy toward the grotesque tree. It exploded outward, a blinding cascade of light, bright enough to pierce through even the darkest corners of the forest. The anguished faces within the tree howled, writhing as the shadows crumbled away, their cries of sorrow turning to those of joy as they felt releases. "Sarah!" The fury in Ted's voice morphed to panic, a seed of uncertainty creeping in. The very ground beneath them shook as the ancient roots screamed, a sound that echoed her conviction. "You can't do this." "Yes, I can." She cried back, the trembling shadows fleeing farther back, palms of darkness pushing against the brightness. "I won't let darkness win any longer." The tree trembled, branches weaving between memories and futures, yet somehow separating them, illuminating paths forward. Sarah's heart raced, fueled by hope, tenacity, and love that could conquer anything, including eternal night. With her children's faces etched in her thoughts, she reached back once more, calling upon the radiance surrounding her. It surged forth, enveloping everything in light as the figures began to emerge from their cells within the bark, strands of darkness pulled back like a coiled spring released. Ted's figure shaded in disbelief, losing his grip on the darkness around him as the heat of her light encroached, forcing him back toward the depths of the forest. "No!" He shrieked one last time, but even that seemed mere echo upon the wind. "You will pay!" The forest screamed again, but this time it mingled with joyful laughter as people long lost began to find their way back, finally freed. Sarah felt the essence of her mother join them, a bittersweet smile crossed her face. With one final push, Sarah's light swallowed all, merging everything with warmth and love. The shadows imploded, the very fabric of darkness torn apart. In that heart-stopping moment, the forest became quiet, crackling silence melding with the lingering echoes of laughter. As she stood there, breathless among the pulsating remnants of what had been, she felt her children's hands slip into her own. "Mommy, where were you?" "I'm here," she whispered, eyes moist with gratitude and love. The darkness had not vanquished, it had transformed. The forest loomed behind them, still mysterious and ancient, winding paths unfurling into daylight. But for the first time, Sarah felt hope in her chest, stronger than fear. They turned away from the shadows, embracing the warmth of the new dawn, as its golden rays kissed the ground beneath their feet. Together, they would walk into the future, leaving the haunted forest behind, free to carve a life anew. And as they ventured on toward brighter horizons, one thing was clear: the shadows could not hurt them now, for they possessed the light deep within. If you love this conclusion, you need to subscribe to the channel right now. Don't let this moment slip away. Smash that like button to show your support, and let us feed the algorithm together. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this gripping ending. And for the true fans out there, don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see Sarah's incredible journey. Your support matters, and you can help keep the stories coming.